right, it is a minute after, so we'll just go ahead and get started. But first of all, thanks everyone for joining our webinar today. Really looking forward to sharing the predictions for the services industry in 2024 with you guys, specifically around aligning your approach to selling both products and services. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping items. So I am Lindsay Doucette. I'm the head of alliances at Provus, and I'll be the moderator for today's session. This webinar will be recorded, so if we will make sure to send that to you guys and follow up after the webinar. And also, if you guys have any questions throughout this, just make sure to drop them in the chat throughout the webinar. We'll try to get to them at the end of the session, and if not, if we don't have time to get to them, we'll definitely make sure to follow up with all of you guys afterwards to make sure we're answering any and all questions that you guys do have. But with that, we'll go ahead and get started. And first off, introduce today's speakers. So from Provus, we have Mahesh Baxi. Mahesh is co-founder and CEO. He is a proven leader with over 20 years in the quote-to-cash domain. He is passionate about solving complex enterprise business problems and is super obsessed with customer success. Mahesh is also a serial entrepreneur and visionary. He brings a wealth of experiences in the services quoting domain, and he also is a published author, avid speaker, and an amateur Bollywood singer. And also from Salesforce, we have Don Fernando. So Don has been with Salesforce since 2016 and is currently a senior director on the product solutions team supporting Revenue Cloud. And prior to joining Salesforce, he has been in implementation and services leadership roles in the CPQ and quote-to-cash space for over a dozen years, and having worked at organizations like Big Machine, Steelbrick, IBM, and Deloitte. And before we get started into the 2024 predictions that we have for you guys, just give you a brief overview of both Provus and Salesforce before we go ahead and jump into things. So for Provus, if you're not familiar with us already, Provus is an AI-led services quoting cloud that is transforming the services lead to cash process. So Provus provides a purpose-built tool that helps our customers optimize their services sales process with robust capabilities to help customers streamline the process, eliminate spreadsheets or homegrown solutions that really rely on those manual tasks that tend to be super error-prone and time-consuming. And our end-to-end automation platform really helps to streamline the entire services sales cycle. And Provus does run natively on Salesforce. We are an ISV partner, and our integrations are listed on the Salesforce App Exchange. You can see just a couple of our customers here, like GlobalLogic, Prolific, Coast to Cloud, and New Rocket. And then we are backed by world-class investors like Norwest, Excel, and Storm Ventures. And Don, I'll go ahead and pass it over to you to give a little bit of information about Salesforce.
Sure. Thanks, Lindsay. Yeah, so Salesforce is the #1 cloud-based CRM software solution. We make it easier for companies to find more prospects and close more deals. By bringing together all your data onto platform from any source, which helps you enrich your connections with your customers. And we call that the Customer 360. We help everyone in your company work more productively and better deliver personalized services and experiences to your customers. Revenue Cloud specifically, which includes CPQ, billing, and now contracts, helps you increase that value proposition more by growing your profitability across any channel in any industry. So basically, Salesforce unifies with Revenue Cloud, unifies all your product-to-cash customer touch points on CRM, allowing you to produce more accurate quotes to your customers, which can transform the customer buying journey while reducing your operating costs.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that, Don.
Sure.
All righty. Now, let's go ahead and get into the fun stuff, the predictions that we have for you guys today. So, Mahesh, can you please share what are the 3 predictions for 2024?
Absolutely, pleasure. First of all, it's absolutely pleasure to be here with Don Fernando and Lindsay Yu, and absolutely looking forward to the discussion. Back to your question, 2024, it's right around the corner. Can't believe it's already December 6th, and we have a few days left before 2024 begins. I think Provus in the 3-year journey has come a long way, and that's why we are able to predict and make these predictions that we are going to talk about, because we have talked to hundreds and thousands of customers and prospects, and we understand this whole services quoting domain really, really well. And so to that extent, the first prediction, is really the unification of product and services sales motion, right? Don just in his introduction, Salesforce introduction, talked about unification of the entire process. What we are talking about is now more and more customer would want to unify how they sell the product and services together. Now that does include the entire lead to cash motion, but most of the time, what we have seen is customers have automated their lead generation, the opportunity management. They have implemented Salesforce Revenue Cloud that includes the CPQ. And so they are able to go through the entire motion for their product or software subscription selling. When it comes to combining that quote with services that they want to sell along with it, it typically gets kind of done in Excel spreadsheets, Google Sheets, and stuff like that. And then, the line items of sorts kind of get fed back into the mainline quote, and then the process continues. And so it's a very disjointed process. And so, IBM very recently talked about their results. And if you look at their, where the revenues come from, 25 billion came from software, and then 19.1 billion came from, services. You look at Salesforce itself, about 4 to 5 billion in revenue comes from services. You look at Cisco, and so many other enterprise customers who are doing either selling the software or they're selling hardware, but each of those have services underneath it. And 96% of the time, the services are sold separately using Excel-based processes. And that's going to be a big problem. We'll talk more about that as we go along. So number one prediction, unification of product and service sales motion when it comes to lead to cash to complete the entire cycle. Number two is really AI will rule the services coding world. Why? Because when you think of CRM processes, when you think of CPQ processes, ERP processes, marketing automation, all of these processes and the automation have been around for a long, long time. And hence the data maturity has been around for a long time. And as a result, the AI engines are able to work on it faster, better, and you are able to train those engines because you already have structured data in place. When it comes to services quoting, like I said, 96% of our customers and prospects that we talk to are on Excel spreadsheet-based processes. Now, Excel are great to an extent. However, it does not give you the structured data in a way that you can ingest into the AI engines. And which is why this is one of those big enterprise white spaces which is left out to be automated. And as a result, the AI, which is now mainstream, is really, really going to rule the services coding world. So that's prediction number two. Number three, which is my personal favorite, is selling and consuming services will only become more complex from here on. What do I mean by that? When you think of, if you take a simple lead to cash automation process, and if you're going to consume those services, you have to think of your marketing automation, you have to think of your CRM automation, your CPQ automation, your services coding automation, your CLM automation, invoicing, billing, professional services automation. You have to do reporting and dashboarding. And in all of this, you're not going to find like one product which is going to do everything for you. You will have to actually implement different strategies, different best of the breed, technologies. And as a result, the data integrity and how you think of the data to be able to really, make meaningful decisions out of all of your data mining is going to be really challenging. So if you're consuming services, all of a sudden you have to be aware of how your data is overall flowing through all of these processes. But if you're providing services, either as a product company or as a services company, all of a sudden you have to be aware of your context, because the context is not only what you are selling, the context is everything that you or your software is going to live within. And as a result, when you're providing services, you have to be agile, you have to be nimble, you have to really understand what you are dealing with from an environment's perspective. And as a result, you have to be able to provide the services with accuracy, with faster speed, because customers wants to really kind of get the quoting faster. And more importantly, they want to understand what's the total cost of ownership, right? Because if I'm consuming these services, I want to really understand the total cost of ownership. So again, we talk about SaaS products day in, day out, and we talk about how SaaS products are simplifying and automating the processes. The reality is, if you are an enterprise customer, when you are taking 10 of these SaaS products, you are actually, integrating those end to end is only becoming more and more complex. So those are the three predictions, Lindsay, for you for 2024.
Awesome. Okay, so those are the predictions for next year. So then how is services quoting helping the customers to unify the product and services selling motion?
Yeah, we are already well on our way, and thanks to Don and the entire Salesforce Revenue Cloud team, we are fully seamlessly integrated with Revenue Cloud. So what do you typically get, and how we are helping the customers? If you have already implemented Salesforce CPQ, or if you are in the process of implementing Salesforce CPQ, you start this journey from maybe lead generation and opportunity. From opportunity, you are transitioning into the orchestration of the overall code. But today in your code, you are able to actually do all of the C and P and Q part of it for your product or software subscriptions that you are selling. And then you can go through, of course, the advanced approvals, the proposal generations and all that stuff. But then if you are trying to sell the services along with it, it's a disjointed process, because you have to do that process somewhere outside of Salesforce. With Provus and Salesforce Revenue Cloud, what sellers are able to do is not only sell the product the way you are selling it today with Salesforce CPQ, but now you are able to add the line items which are configured through Provus services quoting, and the entire journey of your scope discovery, your estimations, your scenario modeling, your quote generations, your advanced pricing, multi-dimensional pricing that typically happens in the services as opposed to the waterfall in the product. All of that is something that now works absolutely seamlessly, because we are built on Salesforce platform. And so as a seller, as a salesperson, you won't even realize that you are, moving around the boundaries of Salesforce Revenue Cloud, CPQ, or, Provus services quoting. But the end result is you are able to put your C and P and Q together for your product line items that you are selling, and all of the services line items you are selling. And then all of your backend systems like your invoicing, order management, billing, all of that is absolutely fully integrated in terms of your subscription-based pricing, usage-based pricing, usage tracking, all of that stuff. So that's how we are helping customers to make sure that they are, achieving that quote to cash motion for products and services through this integrated approach between Provus and Salesforce Revenue Cloud.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm sure a lot of people on this call that's resonating with them and something that they're probably looking for. But Don, so one of the three predictions that Mahesh mentioned is that selling and consuming services are going to get a lot more complex. How do you see a combined offering of Revenue Cloud and Provus helping customers?
Yeah, I just want to jump off of one thing Mahesh said. It's not going to get any easier to do services quoting in a manual process. And that's where I think this value proposition of a Provus CPQ offering can be very valuable to services leaders and services sellers. I mean, at three levels. The first is the ability to increase quoting speed and accuracy during the services quoting process can be realized. Because like Mahesh said, when a CPQ quote is created, it can start with hardware, software, and service line items, right? And Salesforce CPQ can handle the complex config for hardware. We were built for recurring and subscriptions, against the contract. We could also handle a certain amount of service offerings. But when service offerings need to be quoted for highly complex and very sophisticated services engagements, this is where Provus can step in, almost like an external services configurator, and go deep in that service kind of assembly process while writing all of that back to the quote. And this allows, speed and accuracy during the quoting lifecycle, increasing the velocity to get the quote out the door. And because it's all on platform, it makes it more efficient for your sellers to get the quote to the customer. And in addition to that, if done correctly, during that quoting motion for services, you can incorporate improved visibility to capacity, available resourcing, which can lead to kind of bigger, badder things downstream on really enhancing your capacity and demand planning. And also because it is a process, right? Not manual, not kind of, in different point-to-point, systems, you can better address, reducing revenue leakage. Basically, in this automated process, right? Inconsistent pricing practices, which lends, it can be addressed, lending to stronger governance models, right? To improve the increased accuracy of your bills, ultimately going out to your customers. And also the ability to automate deal approvals, like Mahesh said before, helps preserve margins and lessens the potential of deals getting compromised. So a lot of value in an integrated solution here, especially for the services industry. And as we move forward, it's going to help, services seller greatly.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then what is the product focus for 2024 from your perspective, and then how will it help customers?
Yeah, so I sit on the product solutions team supporting Revenue Cloud. A large area of investment is going on basically contracts, what we call Salesforce contracts, which was launched earlier this year, right? And in context of the services selling process, this will help generate the SOW. But it does rely on an upfront process with a services estimator to, put, the accurate services components directly on our quote so we can produce an SOW, right? That SOW is basically an agreement, a contract, which can be inclusive of dynamic clauses. Some of these clauses are going to be heavy weighted. There might be SLA commitments in there that can transform into an obligation. And we'll be able to track that as long as it's seated correctly on the quote during the services estimation process. Another implication of contracts as it relates to services is contract pricing, because on the initial service quote, there's going to be a negotiation, there's going to be approvals, there might be some discounting, but that's the expectation is that contract pricing needs to be kind of preserved as change orders occur or even renewals. And that's where contracts could come in. But, I think the other important thing about contracts is it is a core functionality, and you will start seeing core CPQ and billing functionality eventually come our way more and more into 2024. But AI is going to be the revolutionary kind of tech that'll help it build up that value proposition even more. And like Mahesh said, and also at Dreamforce, AI was all over the place, and we're continuing to develop user stories around that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's safe to say that everyone is talking about AI these days. So what is Provus's AI strategy, and what can customers expect in the product, Mahesh?
Yeah, that's a great question. And thanks, Don. I think AI was everywhere at Dreamforce. And this time, I think it is real. I believe it's real. I think the technology has come a long way, and there are some real use cases that is going to transform all of the industries in terms of what they do from an automation and perspective, right? So when it comes to Provus and what we do, like I said, I think this is one of the big predictions for 2024, which is AI will rule the services coding domain, right? And the reason is very simple. All of the customers would want to move away from Excel spreadsheet-based automation to use the AI technologies that are becoming available. In Provus, we have done two things. One is because services quoting is not fully automated like CRM processes, marketing automation, CPQ, product CPQ, and all that stuff. The approach we have taken is kind of on the strategy piece. It's a four-prong approach, which is we are working with customers to really acquire and organize the data, which is the first step to implement any AI solutions, no matter what it is, whether it's an Einstein or something else. You need to acquire and organize your data in a meaningful way, in a structured way in the first place. And Excel is not structured way for AIs to work. And then once you work on acquiring and organizing this data through the process automation of services quoting, then you can, the other two stages that we have is what we call the analyze and deliver, right? And analyze is basically, now that you have structured data in place, you can start putting all sorts of analysis on it. And then ultimately all of that feeds into our fourth stage, which is the deliver, which is where you start getting the benefits of all of the AI strategies. Now, within the AI framework itself, we call it D square P square. And what that means is, within the AI, there are 4 stages of evolution that will happen as we see with the customers, right? Because from day one, you are not going to start driving in an autonomous mode. Even if you own Tesla, you don't start driving in an autonomous mode from day one. You want to get a feel for it. You want to put controls over it, and then slowly you start to get comfortable. Our D square P square strategy is just like that, which is diagnostics, descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive. Right? Prescriptive is when you start going, you fly on an autonomous mode. But as you are structuring and organizing your data, as you are putting all of these stages in place and our AI engine in place, we start to diagnose in terms of where you are in the process. Then we start becoming descriptive in terms of why you are in this process and where you are. Then we start becoming predictive and start showing you, what are our predictions based on all of your sold data, realized data, all of that stuff. And then finally prescriptive in terms of, hey, if you want to win this deal, here is a scenario that, you should go with, which allows you to maximize your revenue, which allows you to optimize your margins, which gets you the most optimum, team, locations, all of that kind of good stuff. So that's our AI strategy. A lot of that is already built into the product from a beta perspective, and we are working with customers to actually, get this released. But again, the customers who are on this call, or if you hear this, the open challenge from Provus perspective is, if you think you have data that can be ingested into our system, as far as services coding goes, we will work with you and most likely you will get a great deal from us. But again, the challenge is that none of our customers or prospects actually have the data that can be ingested, and hence organizing and acquiring data in a meaningful way is the first step, which is where the automation of the services coding comes in play.
Yep. Thanks so much for going into our AI strategy for the listeners on the call today. Can you elaborate just a little bit more on your views on how AI will change how sellers sell the products and services?
That's my favorite question. So everyone talks about AI, and there are a lot of good things that AI can do. But when it comes to services quoting, what are the use cases that we are going for, right? I mean, there are several use cases that we are aiming for. The first and foremost, when when sellers are selling services, they have no idea in terms of what are their sold margins versus the realized margins. So I'm kind of selling blindly in terms of whatever templates I was handed off with in Excel spreadsheets. Who knows how many versions exist? Who knows who modified those, all that kind of stuff. And a lot of tribal knowledge goes into place, right? So the first and foremost, we allow you to do two kinds of, our AI engine works off of all of your sold data that you have done again and again, and the repeatability, the accuracy, all of that stuff. But now we start bringing your actual realized data. As you start executing that into your backend systems like the PSAs and all that, we actually integrate with all of the leading PSAs. We bring that executed data back. And our AI engine starts telling you like, hey, you are selling at 45% margin, but in the last 100 deals that you have executed, you have only realized 35% margin, right? Now it starts to tell you something. This is where the D square P square strategy goes in. But what do I do with it? Okay, what you can do with it is the next stage, which is, hey, by the way, in your entire services code, this particular phase, which is called an integration phase, you seem to be estimating 100 hours, but you seem to have spent 300 hours on an average in the 100 deals you have done. maybe, the recommendation is that you should change, either take off this integration phase, because that means that, maybe customer does the heavy lifting on integration, or increase the hours, right? So there are a lot of those prescriptions that starts coming. And then eventually, it leads towards, hey, based on all of the things that you have given me, here is a recommended scenario that optimizes your margin, that maximizes your revenue in terms of what should be included, what should not be included, what are the services that you should be selling, all of that stuff. And here is why this is a winning scenario and winning code for you. And all of that comes together as you go along and mature, your AI engine. So that's something that we are super excited about. And that's a real use case, how it will change the seller's life, where they can focus on relationships with the customers and let the tools and automation kind of drive and guide them in terms of how to structure the deal.
Mm-hmm. Don, anything you would like to add from your perspective on that?
I think AI is definitely going to change the business context and ultimately the world. I think specifically on our roadmap, right? Like we are looking to leverage AI in a lot of areas on basically converting unstructured data into structured data for the seeding of continued transformation, specifically in the services industry. So on the SOW, as clauses kind of get negotiated through the contract or agreement authoring phase, right? We could have potentially AI convert those clauses into, needed obligations. So when the contract or engagement activates, you have a mechanism to basically track compliancy for the project, ultimately, so that when renewal time comes, the renewal team can have all the needed information to renew at optimum levels, enforcing, a tighter customer lifetime value. I think, that's one application of AI. The other application of AI is, just efficiency, addressing efficiency opportunities wherever presented. Of course, this is all kind of future road mapping stuff, but you will start seeing this on, future releases for sure.
Yeah, I think anyone can talk about AI forever these days. But so we have 2 minutes left. So Don, I just want to start with you. What are the 3 key takeaways for our audience today that you want them to remember after they leave this webinar?
Well, I think I'm a former services leader, and I think services leaders should take an honest assessment of what their current services quoting process entails. I mean, if it's slow, if it's manual and tedious and lacks policy enforcement, or doesn't provide the needed info to track margins to expose the needed visibility throughout your organization, then Provus can give you with CPQ can give you the flexibility to manage your business all in one place. I think also in the services quoting process, it's vital you accurately assess the needs of your customers correctly. And with an automated solution, service configurator with CPQ configurator can automate that, eliminating the risk of understaffing or overstaffing projects or improperly staffing projects. But it also will produce an accurate SOW, which will be the letter of the law, and also will, if done correctly, is the basis of kind of steering the project down the right track, mitigating the risk of those projects going sideways. Because ultimately, I would also say an underestimated point in that process is a seamless handoff to the SOW from the sales team to the delivery team, because so much expectation needs to be set from that SOW. And if it's done incorrectly, then you're going to have a high risk project. But if it's done correctly, you're going to have all the information you need to run the project, as it needs to be, and also have a basis for inevitable change orders with accurate data, right, to improve the customer experience. But lastly, right, like we're all in this so that, we have glowing customer satisfaction, right? And the more you could do upfront in the services estimating or the CPQ process, the better your projects will be for future opportunities, whether that's landing and expanding other service related kind of repeat business within that enterprise or organization at the customer, But ultimately, what separates a service organization from the competition is customer sat, is customer references. So the better and tighter you can quote and set the expectations to the end customer, the higher chances are that your delivery team is going to be optimized to deliver with a high amount of success, which will enforce a competitive advantage. So I don't know if that's 3 or 4 key takeaways, but that off the top of my head, I hope, that those are my takeaways.
Perfect. Well, regardless of 3 or 4, those were awesome. And thanks for sharing those with us. And Mahesh, to wrap it all up, I know we're a minute over, but we'll let you finish it off with your 3 key takeaways.
All right, my 3. Number 1, if you are using Excel spreadsheets or Google Sheets for your services coding needs, you are on BlackBerry. You are using BlackBerry. So number 1, if you are using BlackBerry, move off of it, aka start automating your services coding process, right? So that's number 1. Number 2, unifying your sales motion for product and services will be the most important initiative that you would undertake for 2024. The consequences of not doing it is really you will be left behind as it, compared to your competitors and so on and so forth, right? So absolutely embark on this journey if you are sitting on the fence, or if you are still using Excel spreadsheets and Google Sheets and stuff like that for your services coding. And number 3, AI is here and it is real. Talking about unifying your sales motion for product and services, you have to start thinking of your AI strategy. But if you are not thinking of acquiring and organizing your services coding data in a meaningful and structured way, nobody can solve your AI problem, right? All AI technologies are out there, but if you are not organized in acquiring your data, then nothing can help you, right? So number 3 is really AI is here and it's real. And if you want to use any of those technologies, you have to start thinking of automating your service coding. So those are my 3 key takeaways for the audience from this webinar.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Mahesh and Don. A lot of great information here. You guys covered so much. And thanks to everyone listening in. We appreciate your time. Again, if we didn't get to your questions, we'll follow up with you and then we'll send you over the recording. And then just lastly, if this is something that resonated with you, you want to learn more, stay tuned because we will be having a product webinar to show you guys the integration and what our solution can do coming up in January. So hope to see all of you guys there. Thanks so much and have a great day.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great one.
Take care.